ladies and gentlemen, to the MCDFNL Footy Show for another week. Proudly brought to you by Bendigo Bank, Maryborough. Sean Kelly's my name. Joining me, as always, my co-host and trusty lieutenant for season 2016, Sam Gowers. Sam, welcome back to the Footy Show again, mate.
Thanks, mate. Glad to be back for a second week of season 2016 alongside yourself.
Yeah, going very nicely at the moment. Ratings through the roof already, and we believe some positive comments from last week, even with the Chief on board. Big Jake Dunn.
Yeah, the Chief got a good reception. In fact, people said he's better than last year's guest, Scott Carey.
Yes, which isn't really hard to do.
No, it's not.
It's not at all. Let's jump straight into it, though, and talk about the main talking points from the last week in the MCDFNL. And talking point number one is hot off the presses, ladies and gentlemen. The MCDFNL have named their Interleague squad, of course the training squad, for this year's WorkSafe Community Championships match against the Horsham District Football League, taking place at Princes Park on Saturday, May the 21st. It's on the screen at the moment, and we'll flick over for the next couple of minutes. Sammy, you've had a look at the squad before we went on air. What strikes you as standing out from this squad so far, which of course will be coached by Carisbrook's Luke Tracy?
Yeah, obviously, Sean, lots of players from Carisbrook, lots of players from Natty, Navarre, Lexington, probably the four form sides from the last couple of years. So you'd expect to see plenty of representation from those clubs. Bloke who I'm excited to see in action for the MCDFNL, hopefully, is Danny Grallett from Navarre. Had a good year last year with the Grasshoppers. Played only a few games though, and this year he started off like a house on fire. So we'll be interested to see how he goes. How about yourself? Who do you like from the squad?
Yeah, looking at the variety in the squad, every team's represented. It's good to see the development players getting a run again, and obviously it's something that's been introduced over the last few years to get young kids used to interleague footy. All three of our Berry Power medalists from last year in the squad, Matty Smith and Michael Dalrymple, and of course Hayden Kelly as the sole Malden representative. Good to see some players coming back to the league in the squad from Newstead. We've got Sam Kerr and Ethan Ford in the squad. Some new players in the league. The Zalantich boys down at Royal Park. Brett Cook at Denali as well. Some players that have stood out in the opening round. So nice balance in the squad as well. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, and some interesting decisions for Luke Tracy leading into selections as well.
Yeah, it certainly will be. It's probably the strongest interleague squad on paper that I think we've probably seen in the last 3 or 4 years. So it'll be very interesting to see the final makeup of the team.
Yeah, it will indeed. Princes Park on Saturday, 21st of May. Put that one in the diaries right now, because that's going to be a huge, huge day against the Horsham and District Football and Netball League. Talking point number two are a couple of big milestones that happened over the weekend here in the MCDFNL. Down at Campbell's Creek, it was Mark Williams playing his 500th game for the Creekers, an outstanding achievement. And then up at Denali, Dasher Smith with 400 games as well. Sammy, a couple of players you've played against throughout your journey in the MCDFNL, and some fantastic achievements by both players.
Yeah, certainly, Sean. Not too many blokes get to even 200 games. So to get to
or 12 in your case.
Get to 500 or 400 games by these two boys is a great effort. I think they're edging close to 50, both these boys, but they're still running rings around much younger blokes in the reserve, so well done to those two.
Yeah, well done to both of those guys on their milestones. And speaking of milestones, talking point number three was a fair milestone in itself as well. Saturday night at Royal Carisbrook Reserve, it was Royal Park overcoming Carisbrook for receiving, I believe it's the Carlton Trophy that they play for, or something along those lines, and receiving that for the first time in almost 20 years.
Yeah, great achievement by Bushy. They've started the year really well. I still don't think they would have expected to knock off the Redbacks under lights out of Carisbrook, which we know is pretty tough to do. So
it is.
Hats off to everyone up at Royal Park.
Yeah, well done to the team at Bushy, going along to a nice start for the year. Carisbrook, we'll talk about them very, very shortly as we have a look at round 3 in the MCDFNL, starting out at Malden, with Malden taking on Denali. And congratulations to the Eagles. We spoke about them last week and getting their first win for the season last week, and their first win for quite a while, up against Avoca on the weekend, sneaking home by a goal. So well done to everybody involved with the Denali Footy Club.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw them push Royal Park in round 1, and they proved it was no fluke last week. I'm going to back the Eagles to get the points in this one and win number 2 for the year.
Yeah, Eagles form mine. Malden just going at the moment, and just think Denali's in that little bit better vein of form. Big weekend in Maryborough this weekend. The derby's on. Royal Park taking on the Maryborough Rovers at Hedges Oval. The Bushy boys will be up and about after their win against Carisbrook last week. They need to make sure, though, that they're not complacent and think that they can just roll in and get the job done this week, because the Rovers, whilst they're 0-2 for the season, have been very competitive in both games so far and will really take it up to Royal Park, and we know that they lift for this game.
Yeah, like you said, Royal Park probably will enter this one full of confidence, but Rovers have been very, very impressive their first 2 2 rounds. Showed that they're a team on the improve this year, and like you said, both sides always rise to the occasion for this one. That being said, I'm going to go for the Tigers. Make it 3-0.
Bushy for me as well, going along quite nicely at the moment. Lexington taking on Trentham out at Lexington Reserve. Very interesting game, this one. Lexington probably haven't been 0-2 to start a season for quite a long time. They've come up against a pair of fairly handy sides in Navarre and Natty Bialaba to start the season. Trentham just couldn't quite get the job done against a very competitive Newstead side on the Anzac Day night on Sunday night. Congratulations to Trentham for everything they do with Anzac Day. They've made that their own, and whilst they played on the night before Anzac Day this year, still doing a fantastic job at honouring the Anzacs. A win in round 1, a competitive effort in round 2. If Trentham do take over this scalp from Lexington, though, it will probably be the first time in a very, very long time that they've done so.
Yeah, probably the first time since Lexington came into the league back in 2011.
I wasn't going to say it because I wasn't 100% sure, but I was alluding to it.
Yeah, but like you said, Lexington had an extremely tough start to the year, taking on the top 2 sides in the competition.
Yep.
In Natty and Navarre, and I'm going to back the Tigers to get their first win, but only just.
Yeah, Tigers for mine as well, but you're right, just because I think Trentham will bring everything they've got and then a little bit more to the table on Saturday. Natty Bialaba taking on Avoca in a real rivalry round in the MCDFNL this week. This was as big a rivalry as there is going around. Obviously, long-term rivalry, even though the two teams have only been in the MCDFNL together for only a few number of years, but it stretches well, and Natty in good form at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably it's polar opposites of the ladder at the moment, Natty and Avoca, but another game where both sides always rise to the occasion.
They do.
Obviously, I'm going to back the Swans, and I think they should get the job done pretty easily.
Swans for mine as well. Bit of talk going around from the reserves game last week between Rovers and Natty that a much-loved member of the Natty Reserve side, just a bit of yellow card action on the weekend. We won't name any names because we're protecting the innocent or presumed innocent here, but may read about it in the Mirror Advertiser. But then again, maybe you won't. So maybe I've said enough there just for people to read between the lines to know what we're talking about.
I don't think you will see it in the Advertiser, just for another clue for everyone.
Yes. But ask around.
Ask around.
You shall receive. Moving along, getting the wind up nicely there. Newstead taking on Campbell's Creek this weekend. Newstead firing at the moment. They are in really, really good form. A couple of wins to start the season off. Campbell's Creek weren't far away on the weekend against Talbot. Just a goal in that game as well. So this will be a really good game of football.
Absolutely. Newstead have started the year like a house on fire. That rebuilding year that they had under Nathan Webster last year's paid off.
Yep.
All their young players are looking really impressive so far, so I'm going to back the Roos to continue their good form.
Yeah, Roos for me as well. As we said last week, there's some whisper about the Roos being top 4 material at the season opener, and it's proving to be a fairly astute rumour at this stage because Newstead going along very nicely indeed. Harcourt taking on Carisbrook this weekend, and this is not going to be an easy task at all for Carisbrook. Another side that I don't think they'd be used to sitting 0-2 after the opening rounds as well, and they're not just going to be, they can't just expect to walk into Harcourt and take the points away either because that Sims Dental Reserve, Sean Smith's boys, are very, very tough ask.
Yeah, much tougher opposition at home than maybe they are away. Harcourt, like you said, Carisbrook probably not used to starting the year with 2 losses. That being said, I'm going to back them in for their first win of 2016.
I am with a little bit of trepidation. Just feel that Harcourt at home will be a very tough ask for them. Our man Big Nath needs to extract a digit and really get amongst it this weekend. Got named in the Interleague squad. Don't know how. I think trading on his own name there. So needs to prove that he's worthy of that spot and have a big game for us so that we can wrap him up a little bit next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe his friendship with the Interleague coach as well. Maybe coming into play for Big Nath.
He said that, not me.
I'm sure he'll get the job done against the Lions this week.
Yeah, very interesting to see how Big Nath and the Carisbrook folk go this weekend. Last game for the weekend. 2 teams sitting pretty undefeated up near the top of the ladder. Talbot and Navarre squaring off at Talbot Recreation Reserve this weekend. And the boys at Talbot will be flying at the moment. They've won 2 games, narrow margins, but got the job done. They'll have the confidence that they can take it up to Navarre and play pretty well against them in patches last year, but it's hard to see them beating a team that's won 43 games in a row now and are just absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Talbot have started the season a lot better than they did the 2015 season. We know they got a lot of new players last year, so maybe a season together's got them gelling a bit better in 2016, but you can't tip against Navarre at the moment, can you?
No, can't indeed. And until anyone gives us a reason to tip against Navarre, you're not going to see it from me on this show.
No, I don't think you're going to see it from either of us, the Grasshoppers, to get the points.
Yeah, Hoppers for me as well. That's all the time we've got for the MCDFNL Footy Show this week. Sammy, fantastic to have you on board. Felt like deja vu a little bit throughout the show, but we got through it very nicely.
Always a pleasure to be back alongside you, mate.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have your company as well on the MCDFNL Footy Show. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you again next week with more from throughout the Maryborough Castlemaine District Football and Netball League.